All right, it's that time of the week. Another Pocket Change Market Report is in the books, this time for February 11, 2023. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I am your host, Sean, with BlueRidgeSilverhound, and we're going to take a look at the most current, up-to-minute market activity on eBay of some of the more notable errors and varieties. And boy, do we have a stacked list for you today. You're not going to want to miss this. To kind of give you guys the normal recap, a lot of the coins that you see on here were either found going through good old regular mounds of pocket change, or coin roll hunting is another popular exercise that a lot of folks do to find nice errors and varieties that they could add to their collection or resell. But also there are folks that actually attend the show circuit or go to their local coin shop, and what they do is they hunt for these varieties unattributed in dealer inventory. You know, sometimes you'll come across, and I see this quite often, dealers that don't particularly care for some of these errors and varieties. Maybe it's too minor for them, it's too much work to resell, things like that. If you're internet savvy, then you'll have like a really easy time at taking advantage of those particular deals and, you know, just really benefiting from the larger audience that the internet world has to offer. And eBay, of course, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, e-commerce platform for any collectibles, and then some. So yeah, that's what we're going to look at. Few things also that you guys have to keep in mind. We don't talk about graded coins in this video. I think I'm long overdue for a graded version of this particular video, which will probably come here in the next week or so. So stay tuned for that. But generally, all these coins on the list, you know, sometimes are a little bit too minor to grade, and grading is a pretty rich expense in itself. It could cost upwards of $60 to grade an error, you know, through like the PCGS, one of the biggest coin grading companies. NGC charges quite a stiff premium as well. I think it's like $35. So keep that in mind. You know, turning a $30 to $50 coin into something more by grading it, you know, is not that feasible in today's marketplace. And final point before we jump in, all of the listing images that you see here are all original to that seller. So we didn't change anything other than cropping them and putting them together so that way you could see both sides of the coin in one clip. So you're going to get the best and the worst type of photography in this video. You might even get a little bit of a photography lesson as a result. So let's go ahead. I would vote this one the most overachieving listing this week. It's a 1999 Lincoln Memorial Cent. It's off center by about 15-20%, give or take. Of course, good old copper plated zinc era, our favorite, right? Hooray. But this is actually really common error on 1999 to 2001 Lincolns. These were found in those mid-sewn bags that came from the Federal Reserve Bank back when they were still issuing those to the local banking system. So people were finding these left and right out of there. But anyway, this is a very common date. You know, we generally see these for around 10 to 20 bucks. However, this one ended up selling as a buy it now listing for $47.71, and that also includes whatever applicable shipping fees are on there. The next one that we have here, another cool one that you guys need to be on the lookout for. And I know it's kind of hard to just, you know, keep tabs on it, but make sure you're looking on both sides of the coin. This is just a well-worn 2005 P West Virginia statehood quarter. And this particular example has a really nice sized cut die break here on the reverse. At some point, the piece of the die had fallen off just through general wear and tear. After striking so many tens of thousands of coins, it's bound to happen. So when it strikes up other subsequent coins after that breakage occurs, all the metal flow goes right into that spot during the pressure of that strike, thereby leading to a raised, bubbled kind of piece of metal off the relief of the coin. It's actually You could feel it with your finger. If you just run your finger across it, pretty easy to feel that difference. So this one right here, one of the more common ones to find, did sell for $11.99. We didn't have too much in the way of off-center struck coins, but there were a few notable ones by this seller right here that we cover every single week. So this is a Roosevelt dime, no readable date. It's off-center by about 35%. Very attractive looking coin. I would dare say it's probably mid-states still. And this one right here is sold for $25.38. Keep in mind, with this type of coin, if there's a readable date and mint mark, those tend to command a lot more money on the secondary market. Now, why does this apply to you? Because a lot of folks have said very openly, like, you can't find these going through pocket change, just because of how oblong or how much irregular shaped they are. And I totally agree with you. However, again, bringing back the coin dealer, coin show perspective, if you have a coin dealer, say, that's selling this for about $10, $15, which I've seen quite a few times, you could swoop right on in, buy a coin that you think you can make money off of, but also keep in mind this is a coin that is dramatic enough that you might be able to add it to your collection at an affordable rate. So keep that in mind. Always cherry pick not only the variety and the error, but also cherry pick price as well. That's an important lesson that a lot of people tend to forget. By the way, that one ended up selling for $25.38. Now, here's one of your more common type of errors that you could come across. This is a 1975 Jefferson nickel with a curved clip. So the curved clip was already on the planchet prior to the strike. So normally with these, you'll want to see the Blakesley effect, which this one does not have, but that does not preclude it from being a genuine clip. All right, it does have the proto rim, as you would expect on there, but this one right here ended up selling for $14. These tend to sell for between, a few dollars for a Lincoln cent that maybe isn't in too good a shape, to one other coin, maybe that's a higher denomination that you don't see that often. Pretty neat one here, 1994 P Washington quarter, is both off-center and also has a partial collar. Partial collar in the sense that the collar, which is a die in itself, and it looks like a donut ring, holds the coin in place during the strike. So when that collar is not engaged or it's slightly tilted, it's not going to hold the coin in entirely. So either the coin's going to be struck off center a little bit, or it's going to impact the corner of that collar, thereby leading to some sort of railroaded feature on the edge of the coin. So this one right here, fortunately, we're still able to see the date and mint mark and everything like that. Pretty neat piece. $12.38 was the final sale price of this coin. All right, glad to see another premium specimen, albeit not the most perfect example. It does have a few issues, but a very, very collectible early coin. This is a 1919 Buffalo nickel with what they call a two-feather variety. These are in the Cherry Picker's Guide. And yes, you can probably see just a slight remnant of a third feather there, and that's normal. And that's fine, because these are attributed in a way that there could be a slight partial third feather, and collectors won't really mind. In addition, they're already attributed with some sort of FS number as well, which is the Cherry Picker's Guide catalog designation when they catalog these coins for the varieties. But you can see a few scratches condition-wise, a few rim bumps in areas there. Far from the perfect coin. Whoops. Yeah, you got a spoiler for the next coin. But you can see there's also a few scratches, but take note of the horn. There's enough horn there to properly say that this is an XF condition coin. This one, even with its warts, still ended up commanding $105 on eBay. 1919P is one of the more tougher dates to find with the two feather variety. And I mean, we got to talk about this one because everybody brings this up, whether it's on YouTube, it's on a forum page, or TikTok or whatever, it seems to me that there are a lot of people that are very hung up on this coin that at one point used to be in the cherry picker's guide, but it turns out that there were a number of dates of this coin that featured over braided dies or over polished, which is what a mint employee does to the dies, just as a part of the maintenance schedule of them, so that way they're running tip-top shape. But the common date here is the 1969D with the floating roof and the missing FG initials on the reverse. All just great indications of an over-polished die. Again, it was a cherry picker's guide variety. I believe it's since been delisted because it's too minor to list, in addition to the fact that there are a few dates around this that have the same feature. Like 1970D is another big date that has the floating roof. But you can see the arrows, which the seller did a fantastic job. Classic Currency 7, I believe, was the name of this seller. But you can see the two arrows up top there that show where there should be a defining line that connects that top part of that roof to the main building. And you can see it is not there. All right, so yeah, fantastic. These are still kind of like a niche favorite or a cult. You know, they have a cult following. This one sold for $25.99. It does have a little few spots of corrosion, which normally would worry me, but someone felt, that there's enough of a rarity here that they picked it up anyways, and it's in decent shape nonetheless. So this one right here, a buyer's beware type of coin. And it's a 2021 Lincoln Shield cent, which was mistakenly sold as the infamous obverse die crack, the K3 to K7 die crack that will eventually turn into the retained cud. However, the problem is that this die crack looking thing here is actually a stain on the coin, and you can see more of that on the reverse here. So this is not a die crack at all. It's just a miscolored stain, probably chemical in nature, that reacted to the copper plating, giving it the appearance that it's something more than it's not. So this one right here, someone unfortunately did spend $105.25. By the way, the actual legitimate die crack and retained cud coins have been very quiet. And I think a lot of people have held on to these. There's not nearly as many out there for people to find. And right now, this coin is 2 years old. So if you were going to find one, you best believe that more than likely the coins are not going to be in that great a shape. Because these do circulate pretty heavily after about the first 12 months. All right, pretty neat one here. I talked about this one on my last PCMR show, and the same seller ended up selling yet again another one. 1956 D over D RPM. Very nice early die state. FS501 is the cherry picker's guide variety, but if you also needed just a general catalog number, it is indeed RPM number 1. The coin is obviously in brilliant, uncirculated, full red condition. Just a stunning example. If you guys needed a refresher, this is what it looks like. That secondary Denver midmark was punched west of the primary. This one you can see a mile away. This is a coin that me personally, I have a really easy time cherry picking without the aid of a magnifier. It's that strong. And you could probably say the same about the RPM number 1 for the 1960D Lincoln cent as well. They're pretty similar and very strong on the repunch. And that one, by the way, is sold for $78.90. So premium mid-state red examples do command quite a premium. So Mr. Brian Rybar had one of these on his eBay page, 1972 Lincoln Memorial. Has to be one of the famous doubled dies that you could find for the date, and it sure is. This is actually FS103 or doubled die obverse number 3. But this coin right here truly looks like it came straight out of circulation. This passed through so many people's hands as just being 1 cent to them, when in reality it was a lot more. So take a look at all the doubling here. Your strongest doubling is going to occur on the word liberty and the motto, "In God We Trust." So these are going to be the two areas of interest that you're going to pay closer attention to as you're hunting through your 1972s. And keep in mind, this is going to be a very popular dated coin till the end of time. And this particular example, in its current condition, sold for $33.90. I mean, heck, I'll take 3,300 times face value for a coin that everybody, again, was spending as 1 cent in change. So another common clip right here, this time on a little bit earlier dated coin, in 1939, is profiled on this Lincoln wheat cent. This one actually has a better example of the Blakesley effect. And you can see the little bit of rim flattening right here. And why that happens is when the mint presses are striking a clipped planchet, and it's generally a type 2 planchet because it's got the raised rim on there already, because of that missing sliver of metal where the clip is, it's going to strike the coin at kind of a tilt. All right, so it's going to strike up unevenly, thereby leading to the Blakesley effect that you see on the opposite side of that clip. This one right here is sold for $14.61. Again, there is interest in these because of how affordable they are, and people do collect these by date. And here's our good old ride and die Washington quarter from last year. There was a ton of stuff you could find on good old Miss Sally Ride. Get it? Yeah. I gotta come off this ride. Yeah, there's another one. Ugh. Okay. Anyways, enough with the puns and jokes. 2022 Philly Sally Ride American Women quarters are still a pretty good coin to hunt through today. Barely a year old, not even there yet. This one right here has the huge size strike through that you could find right on Washington's ponytail. And these come in various shapes and sizes. These are derived from the feeder finger as it makes contact with the actual die face itself. And what that is just some grease that's been pushed around along with other debris and metal shavings, things like that. Pretty cool. I mean, these things used to be a $30 to $50 coin when they were first discovered. I mean, they were pretty major enough. But today, this one right here sold for $17.95. Not ready to throw back into, general population of coins. Hold on to these. There's still quite a bit more than face value. And pretty cool to see this one, this time on a 1993 Denver Lincoln Memorial cent. Man, why is this thing so silvery in color? Well, it's that simple. There's just no copper plating. And you could tell that this is more of a legitimate example because of the presence of luster that you could see on the coin. Other folks would try and acid dip these coins to remove the copper plating on there, and it's been done before. However, the one side effect that not a lot of people really enjoy is the fact that that acid will eat away at the zinc core at a much rapid rate than is, say, if they were trying to get rid of the copper layer. And there's some instances, if there's an open seam on a copper coated Lincoln, someone can actually throw the coin in a jar of Tarnex, and it would disintegrate all the zinc and keep the skin of copper in there. It's actually kind of cool. But this one right here, a legitimate unplated Lincoln, did sell for $51, and that's with 17 bids. So nice enough premium example that is in very nice shape. All right, our next beater coin of the day. Man, we got to pay more attention to some of these older coins, especially the 2008P Arizona Statehood Quarter. This thing looked like it's circulated every bit of its 15-year life. And I can't believe I'm saying that. This coin is already 15 years old as of this year. But yeah, did you guys know there's a pretty big die chip just kind of masquerading as a piece of cactus that connects the cactus to the actual top number, 0 of the date on this one. It even touches the 2 right there. But yeah, pretty crazy. Again, it looks like it could just be part of the cactus, but in reality, that is not supposed to be there. So again, another tiny piece of the die had fragmented off, and it strikes up as these die chips. This one right here, you're never going to believe, ended up selling for $28.90. I think we, again, have to pay a little bit more better attention at some of these, because if there's die chips that are this prominent that impede into other devices on the coin, that's where a lot of the extra value comes into play. And this one is no exception. Another good one to look out for, it's probably more prudent to look for these on mid-state examples. This is a 1943S Jefferson nickel. This is again part of the silver wartime era, so these are silver manganese composition coins. And there's quite a bit to look for. There's RPMs and doubled dies up to yin yang. And we have another one right here to talk about. This is actually doubled die obverse number 8. Stage D, which I believe is a little bit later die state. This one right here, the seller has this circle designating an actual die scratch or die dent that goes through Monticello. But up close, look at the doubling on both the date, Liberty, and also the motto, which I did not include, but it's very similar in nature. Beautiful, very good separation and notching all the way around the coin on the obverse. This one right here ended up selling for $35.05. Just an amazing amount of money for a coin that you could buy for about $5. It's that affordable. So, yeah, there's a lot of coins within this very short silver wartime series that have a lot of varieties. If you guys need more information of what you can find, go ahead and check out a website like varietyvista.com or doubleddie.com. You're going to get a lot of information from both those sites. Just a little minor error on this 1988 Lincoln. The obverse was struck through some grease, thereby creating a little bit of residual weakness on the periphery of the obverse coin. And this one right here sold for $25. That, again, an amount of money I would never expect for this. And also check your silver. Here's yet another one that, has slipped through a lot of people's hands up until now. Good old basic, very common dated 1923 piece dollar. A lot of these were melted and smelted back in the day. This one, I'm glad, is still around for collectability. If you look at the reverse here on the eagle, pretty nice detached lamination feature. Or you could say it's probably even a strike through. Maybe a struck through detached lamination from another coin. They both look very similar. But anyways, so this one right here, this is a coin that you can buy out of scrap silver bins for $25-30. This one ended up selling, by the way, for $65, and that's all because of the error premium. Pretty neat here. This is crazy because this one seller had 4 sets of these, and he ended up selling all 4 at the same time. So we have, let's just say, 4 sets of 1981S proof coins, all in the original government packaging. And you're probably going to ask me, well, Sean, crazy. What are those little white stickers on each of the following coins? The penny, the nickel, the dollar, and the half dollar. Well, I'm glad you asked, Timmy. And I'm glad you asked, Sally. Well, it turns out that those 4 coins bear a Type 2 mint mark. All right, we're going to get into that here in a second. But if you're able to source some of these proof sets and you're able to identify Type 2 mint mark designs, congratulations. You're going to be doing really well on these, because otherwise you could buy these 81 proof sets for right around $8 to $10. They're that affordable. So I'm hoping that this person made a lot more money with the discovery of all these different mint mark Type 2s. There's a little bit of the back picture showing some of the normal kind of like hazy toning that you would find on these. It's very commonplace. But here is ultimately what a Type 1 versus Type 2 mint mark looks like. So the coin or the mint mark on the left is what you would normally find. All right. The mint mark on the right is the Type 2. Now, you guys see the difference? The Type 2 has much larger balls on the serifs there. In addition, the top gap right here is much more bigger and pronounced compared to this one. And then on the Type 1, this top serif right here would kind of attach itself to the main body of the S, and the same for the bottom part of the serif here on that S. So it can be a little challenging to identify these. I know it took me a little while, but after you've seen one and you compare it through several others, it's kind of easy to see. And no, this is something that I would dare not look at naked eye visible. I would almost certainly 100% of the time audit it using a magnifier. That's the only way that you're going to gain a true understanding of what the difference is. But yeah, we're looking for Type 2. That's the rarity here. And each set that this seller had sold had 4 of them. The same 4 coins. The Susan B. Anthony dollar is the most valuable Type 2 mint mark coin out of the 6 coins in the group. That coin alone sells for about $60 to $80 depending on grade. He or she sold each one of them for $110. So can you imagine this person buying these for around $78 a set, sold all 4 for $440? Hey, I just unlocked a secret kind of flipping opportunity for you guys. So look out for these. In addition, the 1979S proof sets with the 2 different mint mark variations, the Blob S and the Clear S, which is the one that you want, is also another big time mint mark variety to look out for. All right, and it's in the Red Book and Cherry Picker's Guide. This is a very, very well known variety. And of course, I got to throw out this one because how can you not? This thing is sticking out like a sore thumb, or it's slapping you silly at this point. 1863 Indian Head White Cent has that large raised cut die break on the reverse there, connecting to the wreath. This thing is amazing. I forgot how crazy some of the Indian Head Cent cuts get. This thing is probably, on that little section of the edge, is probably nearly twice as thick as normal. So this one right here ended up selling for $64.19. Could have gotten a lot more money if the coin was in much better condition. And I would say it's been years, right, since I've talked about a Henning counterfeit nickel. This is a 1944, by the way. So what's going on here? We know that 1944 is embroiled in the middle of a Civil War type composition phase of its life cycle. Well, what do we know? Well, where's that big P, D, or S mint mark on the reverse above the dome of Monticello? This one doesn't have it. And guess what it doesn't have? Silver or manganese. This is some other type of, it could be nickel, honestly, or it could be some other kind of like made up German steel composition, kind of like a dog's dish of various metals that were produced here. But good old Mr. Henning created a contemporary counterfeit, had dispersed tons of these things. I can't even imagine how many of these were made and produced into circulation to deceive mostly banks, because you're trading a bunch of these counterfeit nickels for, regular good old cash. And that's what Henning did. But he always put his little calling card on these. All right. Now I'm going to kind of test you guys out. Do you know where his calling card is on this nickel? All right. So take a moment to kind of figure it out. Think about it. But yeah, the general mushiness of all these Henning nickels cannot be ignored. They all look like crap at the end of the day. And he also produced Henning nickels, I think, going all the way up into the early 50s. There were a few very specific dates, by the way, that he did do these. So the little calling card is that bottom little loop on the R of pluribus. Every single one, or not all of them. There's been some Henning nickels that did not have that bottom loop on the R. But if you do find one on there, congrats. That is indeed the one. These are very well collected, and sure, they're counterfeits. Some people are going to say, well, why would I collect that? It's illegal to own and all that. Well, they are out there. They're in circulation, and people are finding them. This one right here just so happens to sell for $205.25. Pretty big find. Here's a not too great looking 1944D Lincoln wheat cent. It looks kind of steel gray because it's mostly circulation wear. Pretty nice RPM. This is RPM number 2, by the way. The secondary Denver mid-mark is punched north of the primary, as you can see here in this one. And it sold for $19.95. And here's a 1982 large date Lincoln with an indent and a partial brockage. So there were 2 planchets that were overlapping during the striking process, and that's how this anomaly occurred here on this one. This one sold for $39.95. These are all very well collected and desired in the market. And yeah, this good old boy right here looks every bit of a circulated 2015 Lincoln Shield set. I love these things. This will end up being in the Cherry Picker's Guide one day, a very infamous doubled die. This is number 6, by the way, for this date. And it features some pretty big doubling here in Liberty and the date. Lots of stretching going on and thickness in areas that would make Beyonce jealous. So yeah, pretty cool one here. Always look out for this one because, like I said, it's going to end up one day. It's not a matter of when, or not a matter of if, but when. This will be a Cherry Picker's Guide variety, and when it does, it's going to ratchet up the demand. This one sold for $47.74. One of the higher priced specimens of this coin, as it doesn't really qualify as a nice BU specimen. Some more junk silver to look out for. How about this 1897 Morgan? Wow. Yeah, I just kind of gained perspective on how crazy that detached lamination is on the reverse. Yeah, I mean, it's a New Orleans coin, so a little bit tougher, nothing too crazy, but how could we ignore that big, massive lamination deal on the reverse? That thing is silly. Can you imagine being the person that looked through a bunch of like scrap Morgans and finding this? That's a field day right there. So you're probably interested in finding out that this thing sold for $199.99. Yeah, $200. Let's just call it that. But there you go. That's turning $25-$30 into $200. It's like a magic trick, right? One that you want to impress your friends with. Yeah, good old Washington crossing to Delaware, aging gracefully as prices are still slipping and sliding away on the crown die chip anomaly on the P-minted coins. There you go, that massive crown die chip right above Washington's hat that connects into E Pluribus Unum is, yeah, again, it's well known. And, you know, it's going to age gracefully. You know, these will settle at some price point in the future. These things sold for as high as a couple $100, you know, like a year and a half ago. They're not quite there anymore. This one right here is sold for $45. And 1937D, again, another cautious tale here because I really don't like this coin. It was sold as a 3-legged buffalo, but do you guys see why people should be buying these graded? Yeah, look at all the scratches. Just like in the right spot, the scratches and all this other crap going on here. In the most important spot on the coin for the variety. Looks like that it was an ill-fated attempt to remove that front or that one leg that it's supposed to be missing for 3 legs. And then possibly also trying to fake the little raised whatever feature here. They call it the peeing buffalo, you know, and that's something you want to look out for on the 3 legs. But I do not like this coin for that very reason, is that you just don't know. And these can become very expensive lessons if you're not careful. Like this one right here, $574.95 was the sale price with 37 bits. My goodness. There were a lot of people that might have been duped on this one, but at the same time, it could be a legit one. I don't know. It's just, I wouldn't necessarily touch this one with the information that we see on the photos. This was actually cool. You know, I mean, we don't see a whole lot of big time errors on Mercury dimes, so this one is quite refreshing. 1919 Denver is the date we're looking at here, with a nice, just small, innocuous retained cud die break right there. A pre-cud also is what they call it. So you can see that crack join in from one part of the rim, going through the top few letters of United, and then exiting off on the other side. This one right here ended up selling for $49.85 with 8 bids. So a very nice, really cool example. Something new that I haven't seen on my videos. Pretty cool 1917 Lincoln Wheat Cent, off center by about 20%. You know, who could argue with early dated coinage with these type of errors? They're going to be coveted for sure. This one sold for $133.50 with 13 bids. And yeah, did you guess that people are beginning to hunt through 1970s and 80s Washington quarters? Because apparently there's a whole mess of various cud die breaks to be on the lookout for. Here's yet again another one, ladies and gentlemen. A different size, different shaped cud that covers a date than what I've seen. All right. And this is, I'm going to just say, this thing was probably a steal. Because most of the other ones I've seen that are similar to this has sold for like $80 to $120. Again, grade plays a huge role. This is kind of like in that middle ground, not going to knock your socks off grade-wise, but at the same time, it's not down and dirty like some of the other beaters I've seen. This one sold for $60.15, which is probably close to being half of what it should have sold for. So someone got a really good deal. It was not a traditional auction. I think it was a best offer that the seller had accepted. But at the same time, the seller did not have a whole lot of sales history. So, you know, that's kind of justifiable in the price. But anyone else, you know, with a presence on eBay would have sold this for a lot more money. And then finally, boy, man, yeah, how the mighty have fallen. 2022 Wilma Mankiller P, minted, double-sided retained cud. It's been about 60 days since I've talked about this coin. As a matter of fact, it was probably like early January, late December since I profiled this coin. All right, so probably not 60 days, about a month and a half. You know, we used to see these things for $500, $600, $700 at its peak. There were even a few examples that have eclipsed the $1,000 mark. But here's one right here that's in pretty decent shape. You know, it's not tore up from the floor up quite yet, but this is like one of the later states of this particular example that you can find out there, and these are still out there today, ladies and gentlemen. $341 with 10 bids. About half of what it used to be from about 4 months ago. Yeah, pretty crazy how things turn around. But that's what happens when the calendar usually flips to the next year, is that people are waving goodbye to some of the big hard-hitting errors from the previous year as they look forward to the new stuff. And again, understandably so. We already have the new Bessie Coleman's out on the street today with bearing a 2023 date. So you guys definitely need to be on the lookout for that. So that's it. That is a pretty awesome Pocket Change Market Report brought to you by Sean with Blue Ridge Silverhound. That's me, by the way. I appreciate it. So you guys have your work cut out for you. Go out there, hunting around. If you're going to a show, best of luck. Hopefully you find what you're looking for in your collection. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my content and video today. And check me out on TikTok as well, at Blue Ridge Silverhound. But that's going to go ahead and wrap her up for this one. You guys take care. Happy hunting. Wish you guys nothing but luck and success. And I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.